Good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending this fourth webinar series, which is being organized between ATU Library and then AAU, as well as the Faculty of Engineering within ATU. This is the fourth edition of the webinar series being conducted by ATU Library. My name is Dr. Amaya Wasabri. I work in ATU as the Director of Research, Innovation, Publication, and Technology Transfer, as well as a Senior Lecturer in the Computer Science Department. I'm in charge of moderating this webinar this morning. And this morning we have a very interesting webinar. We have three main topics. The first topic is on online education and MOOCs. That is challenges and way forward for technical universities, which will be delivered by Professor Robert Balfour. We also have another topic on teaching and learning engineering in the COVID-19 era, lessons learned from ATU. This will be delivered by Professor Felix Kuchan-Naji. And then the third topic is on Carnegie Grant. So these are our presentations for today. Now, in accordance to the program, the VC has to be introduced. That is, the Vice Chancellor has to be introduced. Okay, so on the program, what we have, what has to be done now is to introduce the Vice Chancellor, that is the Vice Chancellor of ATU, Accra Technical University, and then the speakers. As mentioned earlier, we have three speakers. So we have Professor Felix Kuchan-Naji as a speaker. We also have Professor Robert Balfour from the who is a Carnegie Fellow with ATU, and he's also a professor of practice and in the University of Georgia. And then we have Professor Amavi Akrakwobi also as another speaker. So I'm going to introduce them one by one by reading a short profile of all of them. And then after their introductions, then the next on the program is the VC will have to provide a welcome address. So I'll introduce our Vice Chancellor first. Professor Samoni Odai is a full professor of hydraulics and water resources and is currently the Vice Chancellor of Accra Technical University. He's a Commonwealth Academic Fellow, a recipient of the National Best Research Scientist Gold Award for Water, Environment, and Sanitation. He obtained his MSc and PhD degrees in the Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology. Professor Odai has been inducted as a fellow into the Ghana Academy of Arts and Science. He was awarded the Best Research Scientist at the first Ghana Research Science Congress under the theme Water, Sanitation, and Environment, Securing Our Future Through Science. He has many publications in reputable international journals and conference proceedings to his credit, and has supervised many master's degree and PhD students. So that is the profile of our Vice Chancellor. Next on the list to be introduced is Professor Robert Balfour. So Dr. Balfour is currently a professor at the College of Engineering at the University of Georgia, Athens, USA. He has a PhD in civil engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology with a double minor in geographical information system and statistics. He has two master's degrees, one from Iowa State University in civil geomatics engineering, and the second from Georgia Tech in civil, that is transportation engineering. Dr. Balfour has a bachelor's degree in geomatics engineering from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. His teaching covers a wide range in civil and geomatics engineering disciplines. He has taught in several universities, including Iowa State University, Georgia Tech, Bradley University, Clark Atlanta University, Gainesville State College, Southern Polytechnic State University, and the Ghana Technology University College in Ghana. Courses taught in the past include engineering, economics, engineering graphics, computer applications in civil engineering, transportation engineering, transportation design, transportation planning, geographical information system, global positioning system, engineering survey, research method and statistics, and fundamentals of engineering and spatial data collection and analysis. Dr. Balfour has experience in university leadership and administration He is very familiar with such activities as curriculum development, institutional and program accreditation or reaccreditation, higher education quality assurance processes. He is very experienced in transitional education, that is TNE. Dr. Balfour has received grants from several agencies, including the NSF, DOD, DOE, FHWA, and the World Bank. In the last 5 years, Dr. Balfour has received over $2 million from various research projects. He has supervised over 40 postgraduate theses in the last 5 years. So that is the profile of Professor Robert Balfour. Then Professor Felix Kuchinazi is an associate professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering and is the current dean of the Faculty of Engineering in Accra Technical University. He holds master's and PhD degrees in the areas of biosystems engineering. And then finally, Professor Ababi Akakpobi is an associate professor in the Department of Electronic Engineering and is the current pro-vice chancellor in Accra Technical University. He holds MSc or master's degrees and PhDs in the areas of electronic engineering, computer engineering, and energy systems engineering. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are our speakers. They have been introduced. Our Vice Chancellor too has been introduced. On the program, I have to invite our Vice Chancellor to give a welcome address. So I humbly invite our Vice Chancellor to give a welcome address before we proceed on to the first speaker, the next speaker, and the next, so that they can also deliver their presentations. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Prof.
As you can see, we are currently in a board meeting. So, I'll hand over to you to welcome us, and then we'll say a few words. Then we'll proceed with the other job of the university. We know you're also doing one, so over to you.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I've already introduced you to the participants of the program. I've done an introduction already. So on the program, you have to give us a short welcome address so that you can also proceed with your meeting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nanaya Sabri, our Director for Research, Innovation, and Technology Transfer. I hope you can hear me from there.
Yes, Prof, we can hear you.
Currently, we are at a meeting, a subcommittee of the University Council on appointments. And we are very happy to be with you this morning. We want to also welcome Professor Balfour from Georgia Tech, University of Georgia. Let me say that, Professor, if we can see away from you, Professor Balfour.
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you.
As I was sitting here, very good. I called a friend from Tokyo. I called him like 30 minutes ago.
Ongunajima, right?
He couldn't pick.
Okay.
He just called me back 5 minutes ago to tell me, hey, this professor. And I said, yeah, he's sitting right here. We are having a conference. So it's interesting that
yes,
the world is here. I just want to get back to mention your name. So I'm very glad that we have this.
Hello, Prof. We can't hear the speaker. Prof.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
So, Professor Bafo, a lot of change. We cannot see your gray beard. Yes. I'm very happy that we join forces with you to do this. It's really a great opportunity. I remember when I met you first was at Ghana Technology University when you were pro vice chancellor there. And we worked together successfully for a number of years. So when I met you here, I know at least, yes, this is someone we have worked with and we can continue to work with. So you are welcome on coming on the, is this Carnegie or Carnegie? How do you pronounce it?
Carnegie.
Carnegie.
Yeah.
Okay. The Carnegie visit. Now our hope is that honestly, next time there's going to be also a big reverse visit from ATU to your place. And I'm looking at even possibly 5, delegation of 5, and I will lead them. If I don't lead them, Professor, then one will lead. So as we discuss and go through the conference today, I wish you very well. And I know you bring a lot of ideas together with your host, Professor Amebi Akakovi. And then we look forward to working stronger and also giving our colleagues some COVID-free visit to the University of Georgia. So once again, we are happy to have you and all participants. We welcome you to this forum, and we are very confident that you will really enjoy this 2-hour program. We wish you very well. This morning, as I said, we are here with some of the senior university management in this board meeting. And please, I want us to just give them a wave. So thank you very much. Over to you. You want to say a few words before Nanayao takes over? The provider slide is also.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prof. I think I'll first say that whenever you are ready to visit the University of Georgia, kindly let me know. I'll work with my dean and the administrative group there so that we can get you there. I really want you to come for a team so that we can, for me, the purpose of this visit is to find a way to make ATU the lead in AT education in the country. And that has been my vision for the past 10 years. And I really want to make it happen. I've already had several discussions with my colleagues back in the United States. And I think the opportunity is there. We just have to make it happen. So whenever you're ready, let me know. We will send you all what you need to be able to come and visit. Not only University of Georgia, I also went to Georgia Tech. That is where I got my PhD. So, Georgia Tech does all kinds of innovative things. And I would love to also take you there, in addition to visiting a few other universities in the US. So again, thank you for the opportunity to work with ATU. Hopefully at the end of this visit, you'll be able to craft something significant that will change the way we do business in Ghana and hopefully help the system move forward at least an inch. Thank you again.
So we will link up. I'm sure I'm seeing you before you leave today. I'll be in
yes.
office.
Yeah, I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here. I'll see you.
Okay. Okay, so that was Mrs. Welcome address. We are done with that. So now we move on to the next item, which involves the first speaker, that is Professor Robert Iwabafo, to give us his presentation on the topic online education and MOOCs, challenges and way forward for technical universities. Prof, please go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And please pardon my language. At times I get confused with the American jargon. So yeah, if I use some of the terminologies, I'm not, just Yeah, so this is what I mean, can you see my screen very well?
Yes, we can see.
Yes,
Okay.
we can see. Yeah.
So just before I go through this, and I'm happy I put this together because my plan was to just talk about the experiences and MOOCs and also some of the projects we want to do here at ATU and of course in Ghana. But I decided to put a skeletal presentation together as a way of guiding the discussion, at least from my side of the workshop or webinar. And but before that, I want to just maybe take a couple minutes to tell you my experience in the whole concept of this massive education. You know, I think from the introduction, you probably noticed that I was here for close to about 7 years as the vice president of Ghana Technology University College. We used to call it then. Now it's a government institution. At the time, it wasn't. You know, it was a private institution owned by Vodafone. But now, I think the name is Ghana Communication Technology University or something like that. Now, you know, in the early part of my career at GTUC, we teamed up with the MIT in the US, potentially to create something we call the Commons, the University Commons, which is pretty common in the United Kingdom. What we wanted to do was to find a way to create a platform to share academic resources, mostly engineering. You know, I'm a civil engineer, and that has been my focus area, engineering in general. And so I remember meeting all the rectors of the polytechnics at Sunyane, maybe 2010, 2011, to talk about how we can make this happen. And this was going to be across the West African sub-region. We got a planning grant. We put a proposal together, but as usual, because the proposal was heavily budgeted towards the United States, they didn't fund it because they thought it wasn't wise to have all the money sit in the US. So the project pretty much died. Since then, I've done all kinds of things. You know, Professor Mevi have written a few proposals as well. We wrote one to the USAID to continue this project. It wasn't funded. And so 2 years ago, I wrote a very small proposal to begin to look into this, starting with the ATU through the Carnegie Foundation in the US. So I was here 2 years ago to, I think that was 2 years ago, to work with ATU. We came with some kind of skeletal project, but it's a very narrow and small and short focus project. So we didn't really get far with it. And then this year, I've changed the scope a bit. We still have the MOOCs as part of what we want to do, but I've also included, you know, capstone design, especially for our engineering students here. Because when I came here 2 years ago, I remember joining the civil engineering students when they were doing their defense. And I noticed, at least the few presentations that I saw sitting in, technically were not civil engineering. They were doing, you know, questionnaire. I mean, I classify them more as, you know, sociology linking to engineering kind of project, which, you know, at some point in engineering, you need that, but not at this level of their career. And so I thought one way of doing that is to find a way to create a system where the students can find a project that they will be proud of, project that they'll be happy with, and project that will go to the market to support the growth of this country. So part of my work this particular time is to work with the faculty to look into how do we get projects that we can call them capstone design project, that the student will incorporate all what they have learned throughout the course of their 4-year stay here at ATU, and mostly also the technical university, so that when they go out there, maybe if they are not able to find a job, they can actually start their own something. And it doesn't matter what they start. That is the background. So, and I want to now switch gear and talk briefly about MOOCs. You know, I fundamentally believe strongly that MOOCs is going to change the way we do business in academia, especially in higher education. And this is taking off, you know, for one of the challenges we have in MOOCs is that it is still, the awareness is still not there. And I'm going to briefly talk about the challenges as we roll through the presentation, which is a pretty short one. But so let's quickly go through what MOOCs is. Now, when you say MOOCs, Many years ago, MIT started what they call the MIT Open Courseware. It became very political, it became very controversial in the US because people were arguing MIT is a private institution. And so the argument was, why would they pay fees and MIT will use their fee to develop courses and then put the courses out there for the rest of the world? But it worked out fine for MIT. So MIT Open Courseware started, and back in 2008, the first MOOC, which is massive open online course. A MOOC is a massive, the massive means a lot of people, massive, big, so open is open to the rest of the world. Everybody can take it. It's an online, everything is online, it's a course, just like a university course. The only big difference is generally there's no credit involved. It's not like ATU. If I take, maybe if I take MECH or CVLE or CEC 2000, that is supposed to be maybe a 3-hour course that will go towards my graduation. But most of the MOOC courses generally are not for credit. Now, some universities are beginning to accept some of them for credit. And so that is what a MOOC is. Now, the whole idea of MOOC is to, in essence, educate the whole world. I think Khan Academy came with that concept several years back, focusing on high school and elementary school type education. But the MOOC has become so big now, and actually, let me actually move through some of these slides so I can have some word to support some of the things I'm doing. And if you look at the MOOCs, and I'm going to show you a few examples, and I have a MOOC myself. I have actually developed one, and we'll talk more about that as we move forward. But a MOOC, which is a course, can be anything from 30, it can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be 20 minutes, to maybe a full-blown course. Right now there are some universities who are now running a full-blown course, like you can have a master's degree in, computer systems, or master's degree in cybersecurity as a MOOC course. You get a degree through one of these affiliate universities. One of the advantages of that is they want this to be an affordable program. So generally, most of the MOOCs out there are free, and that is what I really want to be able to promote, that if our students here who are struggling with not having the right lecturer to teach them, not having the right resources, textbooks, if they can have access to such systems, then they should be able to self-educate in a way. And I think this is also arguable. We can discuss it in more detail and find the best solution to make sure our people are taking advantage of what is already out there, because now they are not. And then the MOOCs, like I said earlier on, are not necessarily for credit, because you can actually do that for career development. If you're a lecturer and you are not so 100% familiar with the course that you're going to teach, a MOOC is there. You can go out there, take the course yourself, revise it. If you have not taught that course in many years, you take a MOOC, you go there, and that helps you also understand some of the things that do. So there are several advantages when it comes to MOOC, but the underlying concept is to make education free for all pretty much, and also accessible to all, no matter where you are. There are several examples, and I put Coursera as the number one. Coursera is pretty much the company, and most of these are for profit. Coursera is a company that actually made a MOOC, because this was started back in 2012 by 2 professors from Stanford University in California. They put their courses online, and as we speak now, Coursera has, I don't know, maybe 70. I think they have 77 million students right now. 77 million, with an M. And so we have Coursera, you have Udemy. Udemy is a for-profit entity. I actually have a course on Udemy for dissertation writing and supervision. That one, you go there, you buy the course. Some of the courses can range from $10 to $20 to $100. For those who are doing IT certification, you have millions and millions of opportunities to go there and learn. So there are all kinds of opportunities when it comes to MOOCs. edX, is also a combination of some of the MIT programs, and Harvard X. Allison is there. And there's the last one you see, Sankofa Learn. Obviously, Sankofa Learn will be coming from Ghana. And that is something that I created. It is brand new, and I would like to partner with as many people in Africa as you want to make it, African-wide, potentially free for Africans. And if you have a course you want to put there and sell, that is also fine. So right now, most of the work that you see there is something that I and a small group that I have are put together. So it's still in the skeletal stage, but as we go and talk about the challenges, you see that we need to create our own MOOC. If you think MOOC is going to be a game changer on the continent, we cannot depend on the Western world to create a MOOC, because I'm going to share with you some of the challenges that we have as well. I'm assuming the webinar is said that after my presentation, we're going to have time to ask questions. So if you have any question, you're welcome to write it down. And then after that, we can spend some time and discuss it in more detail. These are some of the key challenges that you find in MOOCs. You know, generally, MOOCs are not, for instance, if you really want to find any MOOC developed in Africa, you probably won't find money. You know, if you want to find a MOOC in Ghana, you probably will not find money. If you want to find a MOOC teaching tree, you won't find maybe nothing, any. So that means we're going to have issue of language barriers. I've been involved in several MOOC presentations, and the Chinese are struggling with MOOCs because most of the MOOCs are in English. And so they have to find a way to translate it. And in China, you can't do this jet translation. Some of them you cannot even use them because access is blocked. And so those are some of the language barrier is one of the key. Contextualization. I mean, the content. If I'm teaching my course at the University of Georgia, the examples that I will use, I can't use typical Ghana examples. I can't use Kofi or Amma as the person holding the key, but I have to use Jason or Millicent or Abigail or whatever name will make sense to them. And so when they bring the same thing back to us here on the continent, most of them do not make sense because we can't really see them. We can't contextualize it. And therefore, it's one of the issues that we have. And that is why at some point, we as a group of people need to find a way to provide local content to support whatever we do. Of course, we all know the technology infrastructure is probably the biggest. You see the challenges we go through to, play video games or play video from YouTube and stuff like that. But I think we are making headway, but we cannot always sit down for the path to be opened by somebody else. I think we need to find a way to open up. So we will talk about some of the things that personally I suggest that we can do to get this done. Of course, we also need training. If you have the system in place but people don't know how to use it, then it doesn't have any value. Now, the interesting part is if you look at the original plan of MOOCs, the plan is to educate humanity, mostly people who don't have access to such level of resources, because MOOC is part of the open education resources. That's a pretty large area where MOOCs falls under, and the whole idea is to make sure people get access to resources to learn. I remember, I went to tech, back in the mid to late 80s, and I did geodetic engineering. And the only books we can lay our hands on were books that were from Russia. And I think somebody translated them, and the language was so bad, some of them you couldn't, mistakes, so you can see. So nowadays you have all the resources out there and that you can, but the resources, we don't have access to the resources because we don't have proper internet and stuff like that. And so the MOOCs has now become part of the extension of the privilege, so Americans are diving into this and educating themselves, changing career by taking a 2-month certification course. But we have a young guy who finished Accra Technical University, can just take a 2-month certification course, but the student doesn't have the access, doesn't have the resources to broaden those skills so that that person can get a job in China or in the US or India. So the thing is still there, but it is not serving our needs. And that is the challenge that I think we have, and we need to move on. So let's briefly talk about the way forward. Now, obviously, if you take the individual problems, then you can do back-to-back solution and say, well, if it is in a different language, let's do translation. So that means you're going to have to sit down and translate it. And I find it so interesting. And this is where I fought our own people here in this country. If you turn the TV on in Ghana here, you notice, there's, I think, one of these Spanish programs, it's a soap opera. It's fully translated into Twi. Yeah, if it is, I think the original language is Spanish. It is fully translated into Twi. so everybody can watch it. But you're not going to find a MOOC being translated into even a common language that we can see. I remember when I was at GTUC many years, I went online, found a very solid course on digital signal processing because I was struggling with that course. My students were struggling with that course. I think the lecturers were not that strong, so the students were not doing well. So I went out there and found a DSP from a retired professor emeritus in one of the IITs in India, brought it to the student. It made some change, but the accent of that particular professor was also heavy that some of the student couldn't understand. So we need to look into some of these things. How do you translate existing MOOC that is good, but need to be polished a bit, and so those are some of the way that we can do to get things done. Of course, we need to also find a way to change the content a bit. If the examples is using the Mississippi River, then maybe we should use the river voter here so that people can actually relate to it very well. So doing some augmentation and also content development is one of the possible solutions to make sure MOOCs will be used effectively here in Ghana, especially also through ATU. And of course, I think this is a no-brainer. The investment infrastructure is key. The infrastructure is simply bad. I mean, we need to find a way to do. And so that is where I come in and say, look, we need to find a solution. We cannot depend on Vodafone. We cannot depend on Ghana government. We cannot depend on, MTN to say, well, we need to come with some innovative solutions. If these countries' walls are closed and no chicken is coming from outside the border of the country, we will find a way to get good chicken to eat in this country. And that is a solution that we need. Otherwise, the youth will grow and nothing will happen, and they will be all complain all the time. But the solutions are here. We should be able to do our own solutions. So, and of course, we need more training to be able to do this stuff. To be able to get students to use the resources, we need training. The key is awareness also. It appears if you ask an average ATU student, do you know what Coursera is? I bet the answer will be no. Even when you say, do you know what a MOOC is? They probably say no. And it's not only ATU. If you go to the United States, you're going to find similar one, but I think the skills are different. The proportions are different, and that is what we need to create the awareness. So, and at times professors or lecturers feel unhappy to introduce the student to such things. And I think it's wrong. We need to introduce our students to such things so they can really help you teach very well. As a lecturer, I think going to online, find a MOOC and review yourself, that is one way. Look, when I went to UGA, the first course I thought was MATLAB programming. And I had done programming way back, and they said, well, Dr. Bob, for this course here, involve programming. Initially, I thought it was just called a computational aspect using mathematical equations, but it turns out I had to program. So I had to go back to my programming background, which, I took a course in C++ many years back. And then I took a whole course in MOOC. After that, I was like the same guy who used to program many years back. And so for lecturers, it's a solution. Let's use it. Let's create awareness and also use it. I said, now, my thinking is this, and this is where we're going to end. My thinking is this. We need to create our own MOOCs, instead of sitting down there to expect the white man to create a MOOC or the Chinese to create a MOOC and then translate it. Why don't we create our own MOOCs? And this is what I recommend, especially as an institution like the Accra Technical University. I think we should be able to partner with organizations like COVID to create MOOCs in those small areas. Let's create hands-on MOOCs, because the system of education we still run here, of course, in Ghana and most part of Africa, I think it is dated, and I know some of you disagree with me, and that's okay. That is why we are in academia. I personally don't believe that the kind of engineering we teach in Africa is the kind of engineering we need. I think we need to go beyond that and teach hands-on engineering. I think the technical education is key, so that we can actually go out there and fix our own roadways. We can go out there and fix our own plumbing issues. If you run into any plumbing issues in your house, there's a good chance the plumber who shows up there doesn't have a clue what he or she is doing. But they are the one who did the plumbing. Now I'm having similar situation in my home because you don't have certified plumbers here. So my thinking is, why can't we create our own MOOCs? It can be a 1 hour MOOC of 5, because of the bandwidth issue, we can do 5-minute videos Just like my course. The course I've developed that is on Udemy, also the course you find on Sankofa Learn. You know, most of them are 7-minute videos, 7 minutes, so that even if the bandwidth is shaky, you may be able to sail through 7 minutes before it start blinking. You know, so my challenge to ATU is this: let us create our own MOOCs. And the MOOCs that we create should not be the MOOCs that we see on Sankofa, Coursera, Udemy, and the rest. We need to create a MOOC like, say, plumbing. How do you do plumbing? How do you do this basic auto mechanic problem? How do you change oil? How do you do that? And then the next phase will be to find a way to certify the students who will go through that. And maybe they come here and write an exam, whatever system you develop. Because we know, you know, trust is also one of the key challenges when it comes to MOOC certification, because, you know, somebody is sitting down at home and a friend will write the exam for them. So we understand all that, but we can always design a system. But the bottom line is we need to find a way and create our own system, our own MOOCs. I think MOOCs is going to change the world, because it's not that, see, once you develop the course there, you know, then the course is developed, then you may have to use your existing faculty and TAs to really guide the student here and there. So it brings the course development down. The initial development is high, but once you do that, it becomes so low in terms of the cost. So let's develop our own MOOCs, incorporate our culture and languages, and make sure that we can now move it and begin to sanitize the system that we live in. So that's it. So that's the end of my presentation. So my last word is, let's go ahead and MOOC. You know, let's go ahead and start developing our own MOOC so that we can find a way, in some way, to change the system. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Professor Robert Iwaba. It's a very nice presentation. We've learned so much from your presentation, and your last word is let's MOOC. So it's relevant that ATU tries its best to look at the programs that we offer and the specific courses that we offer. And if we can do our best to MOOC them, then it will be a good stand for our vision and mission of this university. So we look forward to that. The collaboration with Cuthbert and all of that is also well noted. And we hope that this collaboration that we have with your fellowship can allow us to do all of that. Okay, thank you very much once again. Please, if you have a question, I think it's best you type in the chat after the presenters facilitate their presentations, then we can ask them. I'm going to move on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Felix Kucha Neji. He's, as I stated earlier, he's the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, and he's going to be presenting a topic on teaching and learning engineering in the COVID-19 era, lessons learned from ATU. Prof, please go ahead. You are muted, so you have to unmute your mic.
Thank you very much, the host. And then, Professor Bafo, you are welcome. It's a very fantastic lecture we had from you. And I think it is something that we have to work on. And also to my audience, I want to say greetings from ATU. It's an opportunity to share with you lessons that we have learned during the COVID era. But let me proceed to share my screen so that we go from there. All right. All right, so we want to share with you teaching and learning engineering in the COVID era. Lessons that we have learned from Accra Technical University. And I must say that we're still in the COVID era, and the measures, we are a bit measured, and then managing our expectation, because we are not out of the wood yet. But we think that measures so far put in place will help us pan out very well. But we pray that everything comes and there is no wave again coming up. Now, as a way of my presentation, we're going to reflect on the teaching, learning of engineering in the pre-COVID era. And then we recount the teaching and learning of engineering in the COVID era. Then we juxtapose, we compare what's happened. And then from there, we draw our lessons and then share our lessons with you on this platform.
Please, can you go into the presentation mode?
Okay. Okay, so as I was saying, we want to reflect on what happened during the pre-COVID era, and then recount teaching and learning during the COVID era. Then we juxtapose the two together. Then we draw lessons from it as regard the teaching of engineering. Now we want to refresh our mind. So teaching encompasses so many areas. And one is the curriculum planning and phasing, instructional phase, as well as the evaluation, that is assessing the students. So the presentation actually will be on things that we do during the pre-COVID era in teaching engineering, as well as COVID era. And engineering, everyone knows it's technical, and then it's supposed to be practice-oriented. That is a mode that we have to go. Specifically, because we are in the technical university, our mode of teaching and learning should be a bit of skewed towards the competency-based. So now, let's come to the COVID era, the pre-COVID era. The means of instruction that was solely available then was the traditional, the face-to-face. That was the only thing that we're using in ATU. And as you can see in the picture, that is it. You have a lecturer doing lectures with the students on face-to-face basis. Sorry. Then practicals and laboratory workshops was also done by sizing up the students and then conducting them through this kind of face-to-face interactive practical lessons. And it was augmented also with field trips and industrial attachments in order to give them exposure to industrial related areas. Now the library materials and facilities were also accessed in person. The students have to go to the library to access this material. There was no online learning management in place during the pre-COVID era. And then of course, there was a dedicated Wi-Fi system, and then LAN. Once you're on campus, you're able to access the internet and use. Then all of a sudden, COVID dropped out on us. That happened in the second semester of the 2019-2020 academic year. And then it was replete with a series of lockdowns. As such, the COVID protocols also came in, the issue of space and spacing. And then what was inevitable was the online or remote teaching now, because if you don't do, everything will come to a stop. So we're actually at a crossroad at the time. And then questions were, how do we go? How do we go from here? So in the COVID era, the implication was that without online learning, we are bound to lose instructional time. And so based on the situation at the time and decisive leadership with the dedicated team, they were able to deploy the online system with speed during the semester, course of the semester. But as the LMS, that's the learning management system, was deployed, it came with what we call the culture shock or technology shock, where the challenge of using becomes very evident with lecturers and students, because we're not used to how online systems work. So there was also a strategy to do online training to acquaint ourselves, and that was taken by the ICT team. But another challenge, that was a double tragedy, because this there was lockdown at the time, and therefore the only means of teaching or this training is via online, when we already have the situation of having challenges to do with online learning. So that was also a challenge. But this challenge varied among lecturers and students. Some had a knowledge on it, but with time, I think we're able to learn very fast. Then data accessibility and affordability, that is also a main fact. You will realize that with the online teaching, there was a situation where students from maybe the hinterland, the remote areas, because there was lockdown, everybody had to go back home. It was difficult accessing online teaching, learning. So this was evident in teaching. You see students joining, rejoining, and some because of not being able to afford data wherever they are. That was also, and another thing is about the means of accessing these lectures. Some were not having this equipment that they're able to use to access the internet. And that one, though some Androids and some iPhones will have it, but the versions cannot, various versions cannot support some of the apps. Now, the cost of downloading these demonstration videos and what have you was also a burden for students. However, there was this arrangement that was done so as to subsidize the cost. We were using the model learning management system. However, the challenge was that for students to access freely, they have to work within the environment, the learning environment, the element learning environment. And lecturers were to embed their lecture notes and then what are the slides and video clips in the system, such that students can go in and then read so as to reduce cost or have that free access. However, how the whole thing, because we're having challenges with the online learning system, lecturers were not doing this embedment, and so students will have to download and then go out of the system, and that was also a challenge. It affected the cost that students have to incur in downloading some of these materials. Now, in the pre-COVID era, the library also came out with materials. The library came out with materials in the COVID era, online materials and systems that can help students to remotely access lectures. Learning materials. They can place order for books that they need, and then they can get e-resources from wherever they are. I think this was not in place during the pre-COVID era, but I think the library would have to give kudos to them because they have done a lot of sensitization and then conscientization. And I think that during the COVID era, they were so innovative, and I might applaud them for that. Now, another thing that was because of the industrial, because of the lockdown, there was nothing like workshop practices field trips and industrial attachments, as hitherto was done in during the pre-COVID era. So some of the lecturers also wanted to use the virtual laboratory to offset this challenge. However, the issue that emerged, the fact that only few students had these PCs or laptop to access wherever they are. So it also became a challenge because majority of the students were not with those devices to access it. And so the university, we came out with the fact that lecturers will have to go in there, give industrial assignment based to students so that they address it and present reports on it. So that catered for our industrial attachment during the lockdown, strict lockdown. Again, the online system came with assessment and examination. And the assessment that we were doing was about the quizzes, the multiple choice questions, as well as forums, we create forums for students to interact with them. And quality was so on lecturers as to be monitoring and checking that lecturers upload and post their materials and then give adequate assignment to students. But the issue of internet accessibility, because it was a strict lockdown, most of the students were not able to get access to internet wherever they were. So the issue of the final examination or end of semester examination was postponed. So the lockdown was relaxed. Now the issue of social distancing also came in with the relaxation of the lockdown. And in the relaxation of the lockdown, the university decided to adapt what we call the blended mode of teaching and learning, where they stratified students into tracks, that is track A, track B, so that they alternate concurrently. As some are doing online, others are doing the face-to-face. So the face-to-face catered for the practical lessons, whereas the online, they gave the tutorials and theoretical lessons. So it's run in that tandem. Now let us see, just supposing the two eras together, the pre-COVID and then the COVID era. Now from that, we realize that the blended mode of learning proves reliable for engineering, teaching, and learning. Why am I saying this? Because it afforded the opportunity for the hands-on training, which was conspicuously missing in the online, because we're using the videos, we're using the clips, the demonstrations, but it doesn't give the practical touch to the students. So the blended form, where you allow the students to have the in-face and then do the theory or the others on the online, prove reliable for engineering, teaching, and learning. And also during the lectures, because of the assessing of lectures by students at different areas, there was lots of instructional time. So when they come in for the online, the in-person section, the opportunity to recap what they have missed was available, and it helped a lot to bridge that gap. Now, because we're blending the online and then in-person teaching also, it afforded us the opportunity to explore more on the online, which we were hitherto not experienced. So we are exploring more opportunities to use the online because it's a continuous process and it has come to stay with us. Now, talking about student mobility, I think the online also gave a bit of opportunity for student mobility, and then as well as attracts foreign students, because when foreign students know that you have these online systems in place, they are a bit safe. Now, because of the absence of teaching and online learning, without the online learning, sorry, I don't know why. Without the online learning, there would have been disaster because it's the whole, since there was no online learning at the time, had it not been that with the speed with which they put the online or they deploy the online learning, it would have been that there was no way of us teaching teaching. It was actually going to be a stall in the educational system, or we will have to wait till everything is relaxed before we start the lesson. So in conclusion, I think we have to embrace what is actually social and trending and the best practices so that we will not be caught unaware. And just as people are making waves with this, the MOOC that Prof. Balfour talked about, I think we have to make sure we also team up and then get involved in the process before something else happens and then we will be caught in a web again. Learning is a change process, so we have to prepare for change. We have to position ourselves in this thing that we need to know that change would happen and can happen anytime. So we have to prepare for that change. We prepare for that change. The online learning also opens avenues, opportunities for growth and expansion. And I must say, it is during the COVID time that ATU received the highest admission. And I'm sure the online mode of learning cannot be taken out of this whole thing. Now, in terms of the facilities that are available, I think it is good for that collaboration because the in-person sections, the divisions, in order to cater for the students, lecturers have to subdivide students into various groupings in order to cater for them, conduct each group through the practical lessons. And if we are able to liaise with more industries, such that some of these practical lessons, we are able to take some to the industry to do this practical lesson, I think that it would help us show up in that regard. The online teaching of foreign students also, online teaching also facilitates foreign student attraction. And with accessing online teaching through online, I think the issue here will be the course accessibility. And with this one, there should be the government educational system, the system, that is the university, and then the telcos. And I think there should be a solid collaboration between them in order that they can help subsidize costs and then also help with accessibility. this one cannot be only done by the university, but it needs government intervention. So this is what I have to share for now. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, Prof. A very nice presentation. But you have given us a true reflection of what actually happened during the COVID-19 era. The COVID hit us surprisingly. But I think from what you have presented, ATU was able to survive. ATU was able to at least deploy the LMS and move on, because it was looking like if there's nothing like online education, then nothing moves forward. So it's a very nice presentation, and online education is the way to go now. In fact, even if COVID is not there, teaching face-to-face traditionally is a thing of the past. Without adding online education and some other aspects to it, it doesn't become feasible enough. So we hope we can continue with it and improve upon our lapses as we move along.